maid rushes forward, repeatedly bowing and apologizing profusely. The young noble Albin Audrin, 15 years old, sits stunned with a cup spilled over his head. Suddenly realizing that only ruin awaits him, he questions himself quietly, doubting the villainous noble role he's been cast in. The narration explains this world is from a fantasy novel, where Albin has become the villain with the absolute worst personality. Despite being a genius, he's a lazy, arrogant, and insolent piece of trash, having lost his parents young. His warped personality grew worse. Scenes show him lounging carelessly, a maid changing his clothes, and him overweight and slouching. It's clear his downfall is inevitable. Albin crawls desperately through a dark alley, declaring he will definitely be ruined. Memories surface of his downfall starting once he entered the academy. Triggered by losing a duel to the protagonist, determined to change, he resolves to improve his lifestyle, rejecting the pathetic fate of dying by the roadside as in the novel. Suddenly, a knock at the door interrupts him. An older man enters, respectfully addressing Albin as Albin Sama. He introduces himself as Seabass Christian, Albin's butler and the pillar supporting the household due to Albin's laziness. Albin reacts with surprise as Seabass approaches, explaining he heard about a mistake made by a server earlier. The butler's presence hints at a new turning point in Albin's life. Seabass gasps in disbelief, asking if Albin changed into his clothes by himself. Albin cheerfully admits his mistake, realizing just how lazy he had been. He wonders if it's faster to change clothes by himself and feels moved by the thought. He acknowledges Seabass's long years of service and asks how he may be of service. Albin explains he wants to lose weight and learn swordsmanship from Seabass, causing the butler to react with shock. Albin worries about his future disappearing if he doesn't change now and desperately seeks a way to convince Seabass. He tries to explain his intentions, while Seabass is grabbed by Albin's frantic concern, denying he hit his head despite being soaked with tea. Albin boldly declares that as he is now, he fears he won't find a wife. Seabass questions this, but Albin insists he wants to change and will do so. Seabass reminds him he likely has no shortage of marriage proposals given his status, but Albin demands Seabass not hold back and to treat him like an opponent. Albin confidently vows to prove he can lose weight and master swordsmanship within 6 months. Seabass, impressed by Albin's firm resolve, bows respectfully. Albin stands determined, ready to begin his transformation. Seabass Christian solemnly pledges to help Albin with all his might. Despite feeling unworthy, Albin, determined but exhausted, cheers himself on before collapsing from fatigue 1 week into training. Seabass asks if he wants to give up, but Albin groans in pain. Overwhelmed by swollen feet, trembling arms, and aching sides, Seabass insists they start with the basics. Albin struggles as Seabass effortlessly dodges and counters his attacks, noting Albin is far too strong but unbalanced. Seabass advises training muscle strength in a balanced way, smiling calmly while Albin lies panting on the ground, frustrated and overwhelmed. Albin admits defeat, gasping that his body won't move as he wants and every breath feels like his muscles will burst. Seabass acknowledges this but points out Albin's huge disadvantage and urges him to slow down, explaining that at this pace, it will take around 3 years to lose weight. Albin's eyes widen in shock at the long timeline. Despite the hardship, Albin, sweating and gripping his sword, vows to keep going, acknowledging his progress is better than before. He warns Seabass that he's going to be troublesome from now on and demands Seabass accompany him a bit longer, his expression fierce and determined. Seabass encourages Albin with a confident smile, vowing to accompany him wherever he wishes to go. 1 month later, Seabass praises Albin's swordsmanship but criticizes his slow pace. Albin insists he's not done yet. 2 months later, Seabass points out Albin has let down his guard during their sparring. 3 months later, Albin, now sweating but determined, declares he caught up with Seabass, who responds seriously, urging Albin to take the training seriously. Albin and Seabass stand before a dungeon entrance. Albin is surprised to find a dungeon in his territory. Seabass explains the dungeon has relatively weak monsters and low risk compared to others. He acknowledges Albin's significant progress over the past 3 months. Seabass prepares to test Albin's sword mastery in a practical setting. Seabass states they must confirm if Albin's sword is effective in real combat and wants to see the results of his training. Albin accepts this as his final exam. Seabass points out a goblin approaching, a low-level monster, and asks if Albin can kill it. He explains goblins usually move in packs, but this one has been separated. He asks Albin if he can kill it. Albin steels himself, gripping his sword tightly as the goblin advances, ready to face the challenge. Seabass reflects on his initial doubt, believing Albin's motivation would only last 3 days and that the lazy boy couldn't follow through. Yet, Albin has absorbed everything taught with incredible speed, standing firm as goblins charge. Albin swings his sword with precision, cutting down the goblin effortlessly. Seabass notes there are no limits to a hard-working genius, watching Albin's focused eyes sharpen with determination. Albin senses more goblins nearby and readies himself. While Seabass's heart races with pride, he smiles confidently, convinced Albin is truly exceptional. After the battle, Seabass applauds Albin's amazing work. Albin stands among the fallen goblins, a swordsman beloved by God, having delivered a cruel and heartless kill with unmatched skill. Seabass acknowledges Albin's growth, telling him he has gotten stronger and that there is nothing left for him to teach. Albin's expression shifts from surprise to determination as he clenches his fist tightly, a spark of resolve igniting within him. 6 months after beginning his training, Albin loudly questions if it's true that someone sent him a marriage proposal. Seabass gently tells him his voice is a bit too loud. Albin excitedly imagines finally having a wife, hoping she will be cute and kind, while Seabass cautions that it might not be entirely good news. Coughing slightly, Seabass confirms the proposal is from the Barrow-ducal family. Albin, shocked, asks why such a prestigious family would approach him, lamenting the huge status gap since he is just a baron. His disbelief echoes as he processes the news. Albin recalls that he did get married in the story, and the woman should be Letitia Barrow, a problem child whose engagement was broken due to her misdeeds. Leaving her with nowhere to go, the image of Letitia surrounded by roses appears, hinting at her complicated background and connection to Albin. Albin, tears welling in his eyes, questions the purpose of his efforts over the past 6 months, feeling crushed by the thought that he's merely heading toward ruin. His frustration boils over as he mentally declares the situation a huge pain. Seabass stands behind him, calmly explaining that the young lady of the Barrow family has a notoriously difficult personality and urges Albin to do his best. The scene shifts to the Barrow estate, emphasizing the daunting challenge ahead. Albin pleads to refuse the marriage proposal, overwhelmed by the thought alone. Seabass closes his eyes calmly, warning that if Albin wants to make the Barrow-ducal family his enemy, he should feel free. Albin groans, finding the prospect even more troublesome, while Seabass encourages him not to be discouraged. Seabass suggests that forming a connection with the Barrow-ducal family would guarantee the Audron family's safety, but Albin firmly denies this. He yells that this connection is exactly why he's destined to fall into ruin, though he nervously laughs at his own outburst. He explains the rumors surrounding Letitia Barrow. She embezzled estate taxes and brought a young man into the mansion. He adds that she's a hopeless spendthrift who even took her fiancé's assets, painting her as completely unhinged. Albin listens with a frustrated expression. Outside, Albin clenches his fist in anguish, lamenting that despite losing so much weight to change his fate, it all seems pointless. The sound of cawing crows echoes as he struggles with despair, feeling no hope remains. Albin's eyes sharpen with determination as he prepares to meet someone important. A carriage arrives, and Seabass whispers that it's finally time to meet in person. Albin responds quietly, acknowledging it. Inside the mansion, the group stands ready, and a maid wonders aloud what kind of ridiculous person will appear. Letitia Barrow steps down from the carriage, her presence surrounded by falling rose petals. Her delicate foot touches the ground with a soft step, emphasizing her graceful entrance. The atmosphere is filled with floral elegance as she moves forward. Albin is struck by Letitia's appearance, noting she looks different than he imagined, more beautiful than expected. Letitia formally introduces herself, stating she will be under the care of the Audron family from now on and politely asks for their kindness. Albin stammers his polite response. Seabass introduces himself as the butler and offers to show Letitia to her room, assuming she must be tired from the journey. Letitia calmly replies that she does not have an attendant. Albin is surprised, and Letitia firmly requests to be guided quickly. She reveals she came to this place alone, asserting her independence as they begin to move forward. Albin asks Seabass what he thinks about Letitia. Seabass politely replies she is a very beautiful lady. Albin insists that's not what he means. Seabass smiles and, adjusting his sleeve, says if he had to summarize her in one word, he'd say odd. Albin agrees, noting Letitia's demeanor doesn't fit the image of a girl who commits misdeeds. Seabass concurs, saying there's more to her than meets the eye. Albin reflects that he felt wisdom from her instead of villainy. Albin tells Seabass it's good he understood this quickly and urges him to investigate what happened to Letitia, but warns to keep it secret. Seabass agrees, while Albin admits he wants to gather information but avoid getting involved in the Barrow family's problems. He feels relieved despite this. Seabass recalls how he fully believed some foolish person would arrive, but Letitia is refined. He suggests she might even be a fitting wife for Albin. Albin blushes nervously but admits he'd be glad if that were true. Albin cheerfully explains that even adventurers avoid eating mimics, but Letitia remains silent, swallowing nervously, as she carefully places a piece of food on her plate. Albin suddenly stands and thanks her for the meal. He calls out to Letitia, trying to get her attention. Albin admits Letitia still refuses to talk to him after 3 days, and Seabass suggests the joke was simply too boring. Albin angrily tells Seabass to shut up, then reflects on how his reputation has changed, but he understands Letitia's feelings. He clenches his fist, determined not to back down. Albin calls out to Letitia, inviting her for a walk, but she ignores him and walks away. He follows, asking if she belongs to the herb or potion group, trying to engage her. Despite his efforts, she remains distant. Completely defeated, Albin slumps over a table, lamenting that she won't respond no matter how much he tries. He wishes for at least a conversation to understand her struggles. Resigned, he acknowledges there's only one method left to reach her. Albin knocks on a door, asking Letitia if she has time. She remains silent, engrossed in her book, and tells him to go outside, warning that staying indoors too long is bad for his health. Albin, frustrated by her ignoring him again, draws his sword with a sly grin, declaring he'll play along just like a villain would. With a powerful swing, Albin slashes through the door, sending shards flying as he steps inside the room. Letitia's eyes widen in shock and disbelief at the sudden destruction. The shattered door lies on the floor near her as she stares in horror. Albin calmly apologizes for his actions while standing in the doorway. Letitia angrily demands how he could do such a thing, but he assures her the door will be repaired immediately. She snaps back that the damage isn't the real problem, her expression tense and upset. Letitia scolds him fiercely, demanding he have some shame for barging into a lady's room without permission. Albin smirks, admitting he's a scumbag who will break any rule to achieve his goal. She questions his purpose, and he confirms it with a confident yes. Without hesitation, Albin leans forward and boldly asks Letitia to go on a date with him. She stares in surprise, caught completely off guard by his direct invitation. Albin stretches energetically, praising the refreshing outdoor air, and asks Letitia if she agrees. She responds quietly, saying she might feel that way if he weren't there, keeping her distance and remaining reserved. Albin reflects on how Letitia still keeps her guard up around him, admitting he wouldn't trust himself if he were in her shoes. Despite his awkwardness, he tries to lighten the mood, but her wary expression shows she remains cautious. Determined, Albin suggests following a mountain path to see beautiful scenery. Letitia struggles to keep up, confessing she's not used to walking mountain paths. Albin apologizes for not warning her, and politely excuses himself as she tries to catch her breath. Albin suddenly scoops Letitia into his arms to prevent her from spraining her feet. She gasps in surprise while he grins playfully, assuring her this way she won't get hurt. She looks flustered but remains silent, caught off guard by his bold gesture. Letitia firmly tells Albin not to touch her, warning it would cause trouble. Albin assures her he won't do anything weird, but she remains skeptical. Seabass gives a thumbs up, proud that Albin can carry Letitia bridal style so easily. Albin thanks Seabass silently, relieved his training paid off. Letitia suspects Albin is still thinking something strange despite his words. Albin spots something ahead and excitedly points it out, prompting Letitia to look with curiosity. Albin and Letitia reach a vantage point overlooking the Audran territory. Albin beams as he shows her the vast lands, explaining he wanted to share this view with her. Letitia, surprised and touched, asks if it's really for her. Albin confirms warmly, making her heart flutter. Albin smiles gently, telling Letitia they will take care of the territory together from now on. She looks at him, moved and slightly blushing, as petals and sparkles surround them, marking a tender moment between them. Letitia reflects on the rumors she'd heard about Albin being an arrogant, insolent thug. Albin, standing nearby, tells her she's quite different from those rumors and teasingly points out she's missing the word lazy. He insists he's no thug, lightening the mood as they continue their walk together. Albin boldly declares he is a villain. Grinning with confidence, Letitia laughs softly, teasing that villains don't call themselves villains. Albin looks surprised and a bit flustered by her reaction. They arrive at a serene river surrounded by trees and a waterfall. Letitia wades into the water, calling out to Albin with a bright smile. Albin sits on a rock, noting the water's coolness and wondering if this is a refreshing change for a city girl. Letitia responds with a gentle "my." Sitting together by the water, Letitia asks if asserting dominance over a city girl makes Albin feel good. He denies it with a grin, saying he wasn't trying to. Albin suggests they take this chance to introduce themselves properly, since they don't know much about each other yet. Letitia hesitates, saying she's not really interested, but Albin insists he is. Letitia formally introduces herself, sharing her favorite foods, black tea and scones, and admitting her hobby is playing with kids. Albin responds with interest, asking if she likes kids. She admits she doesn't hate them. At least, Letitia smiles warmly as she invites Albin to take his turn introducing himself. Albin Audrin introduces himself, sharing that his favorite food is steak, though he's currently abstaining to watch his weight. He mentions his hobbies include sword practice and lazing around, prompting Letitia to comment she can't tell if he's a hard worker or a slacker. Albin laughs, wondering about that himself. Albin reflects on how he transformed his plump body into its current form. Concluding he must be a hard worker, Letitia agrees, saying she could learn from him. Suddenly, Albin playfully growls, startling Letitia, then spots a monster approaching. He calmly identifies it as a killer bear. Albin explains the bears in these woods are a nuisance because they eat crops. Letitia panics, urging them to run away immediately. But Albin remains composed. The bear charges, and Albin realizes it's targeting Letitia. He prepares to defend her, refusing to let the bear harm her despite her frightened state. Albin confronts the bear directly, warning that pests like it should stay away from Letitia as he stands ready with his sword drawn, shielding her from danger. Albin asks if Letitia is all right after the bear attack. Noting they finally had a good conversation, Letitia nervously insists she's fine, admitting she was just surprised since she's never seen a monster before. Albin realizes she's scared because she's never been attacked by one. He questions himself, wondering what he's doing. Albin gently touches Letitia's face, causing her to call his name in surprise. He smiles warmly, expressing relief that she's safe and sound. Letitia's eyes well up with tears as she squeezes Albin's hand. She asks why he is so kind to her, leaving him confused and unsure how to answer. Letitia accuses Albin of being forced to marry her for political reasons, suggesting he could have been content with the Barrow family's protection and left her alone. Albin cheerfully denies this, saying he wants to flirt with his cute wife and that any cold front he puts up is just a facade. He reveals his true intention is to uncover what she did and who she angered. She insists it's safer not to know, but he refuses, declaring his involvement now. She denies any connection, then grabs his arm firmly, offering a piece of advice. She warns that if he wants to keep the Audrin family safe, he must treat her badly. His shocked reaction is immediate and intense. She recalls having a fiancé chosen for her at age 5, Duke Morrow Bertley, wondering if he might be a wonderful man. She smiles with hopeful anticipation, but in truth, the reality is far different. Duke Morrow is revealed as nothing more than an absolute fool, laughing and indulging himself with women and riches. He boasts about his generosity, offering to let others take as much as they want, expecting favors in return. Letitia confronts Morrow, warning him about the rising taxes burdening the people of the domain. Her serious tone contrasts with the fearful whispers of others noticing her arrival. She demands he listen, emphasizing the dire consequences if things continue. Morrow dismisses her, mocking Letitia as the Barrow family's little pipe woman. A political tool used as a link between families. Letitia clenches her fists, shocked and hurt by his scornful words, her resolve visibly shaken but unbroken. Letitia admits she spoke out of turn, mocking herself as the pipe woman. Two women nearby laugh cruelly, pitying her. She clutches her chest, overwhelmed with pain and sorrow, remembering that Duke Morrow Bertley is her precious fiancé, the man she was taught to dedicate herself to since childhood. The scene shifts to a poor village street under a cloudy sky, where hardship is evident. People struggle with poverty and illness, highlighting the stark contrast to the noble life Letitia faces. A desperate mother pleads for food as her sick child coughs weakly. A man carrying a heavy coffin passes by, while others accuse a thief, who explains his child's sickness. The villagers lament their lack of food, marking the 12th month of hardship. Letitia stands silently by a wall, gripping her hands tightly as the sound of clanging echoes nearby. She swallows hard, realizing the dire situation. At this rate, disaster looms over everyone. Letitia Barrow clutches her chest, determined. She vows that if Duke Morrow Bertley continues to waste the people's taxes, then she will act. The scene shifts to a grand ballroom filled with dancing nobles, marked as 3 years later. A loud voice announces to the crowd that Letitia Barrow's engagement to Duke Morrow Bertley is officially annulled. Causing murmurs among the guests, Letitia looks shocked and confused. Asking Morrow what he means, he responds with a dismissive humph. Morrow accuses Letitia of squandering their wealth and even embezzling tax money. Claiming he noticed her betrayal, the crowd reacts with disbelief and whispers about tax embezzlement. Letitia protests, insisting she was only trying to help, but Morrow coldly retorts that stealing is stealing, no matter the reason. Morrow declares that Letitia no longer has the right to set foot in his territory. Basking in the admiration of a woman beside him, Letitia, recalling the past, clenches her hand in silent pain as she recognizes the woman from before. She sadly acknowledges that the future she dreamed of as a child is gone, bidding farewell to Bertley-sama, knowing she may never see him again. A voice demands, urging everyone to hurry and remove her from the scene. She bites her lip, reminding herself she has no right to cry. With determination, she admits she understands and accepts that she acted fully aware of the consequences. Half a year later, inside the Barrow household, she addresses the Baron, Albin Audrin, realizing this is the name of her new fiancé. Rumors paint him as arrogant, selfish, and lazy, but she believes this is divine punishment for her sins. Yet, in truth, Albin is different. Surrounded by friends, Albin warmly invites her on a date, promising to care for their territory together. He happily assures her safety, while others enthusiastically offer introductions and ask if she belongs to the herb group. Tears well as she reflects on how Albin saw her true self and believed in her. Despite this, she resolves not to let him get involved, fearing for his safety. Whether losing what she cherishes or having her hopes crushed, she despises it all. Tears stream down her face as she clutches a pillow tightly, overwhelmed by despair. Alone in a grand room, she questions her purpose, whispering to herself, "What am I supposed to do?" In a spacious hall, a man in a dark suit stands firm, declaring that the story framing Letitia is clear. Another man, seated and tense, clenches his fist, his mind racing with dark thoughts as he asks, "How should I kill him?" The seated man imagines violently disposing of Morrow, pondering hiring a torturer but deciding to handle it personally. The standing man calmly counters that the situation is more complex than just blaming Morrow as a cheating villain. He reveals that Letitia did have involvement with the Bertley family's assets, confirming that part of the accusation is true. The seated man reacts with shock. The seated man slams his fist down, shouting in disbelief that it's impossible for Letitia to have done such a thing, refusing to accept the harsh truth. The man demands to know the reason behind the accusations. Calmly, Seabass explains that Letitia did embezzle taxes, but it was to fund a shelter for abandoned children living in poverty. The man realizes Letitia was stealing for the children. Seabass confirms this, adding she used the Bertley family's assets to raise the poor's standard of living. The man reflects that Letitia seemed to genuinely care for children and has been cleaning up after an incompetent family member's mess. Letitia, tense, urges him to push her away for his own safety. The man calls Seabass over and asks what he thought after hearing all this. Urging honesty, Seabass bluntly calls the story complete nonsense. The man agrees with Seabass and, with fierce determination, asks for his help to expose the real villain who framed Letitia, vowing to show what a true villain can do. A hand breaks off a piece of bread, prompting a surprised woman to ask for clarification. She nervously requests the statement be repeated. A man sitting at the table calmly admits he is the one spreading rumors. The man explains that to clear Lady Letitia's regrets, Albin Audrin is plotting revenge against Duke Morrow. Letitia stammers in response, clearly unsettled by the revelation. The man casually refers to this as that kind of rumor. Letitia urgently warns that if she acts on this, Duke Morrow will keep a close watch on her. The man advises her to calm down, then reveals he is also spreading another rumor. Letitia questions this new rumor with surprise. The man reveals the rumor. Albin Audrin and Lady Letitia are not getting along, and Albin plans to secretly pay Duke Morrow a large sum to dispose of her. Letitia listens tensely as the man concludes, or so the story goes. Lady Letitia questions how the new rumor could be the complete opposite of the previous one. The man confirms it is, explaining that rumors hit hardest when someone is hiding something, which is what makes this rumor perfect. At the Bertley estate, a man reacts with disbelief, noting the new rumor contradicts what they heard before. A woman explains that many rumors circulate around town, including ones about Letitia being locked up or overworked. The man sighs, acknowledging the awful reputation of the person involved. The man suggests the rumor about Albin Audrin and Letitia not getting along might be true. Letitia asks why, while the man declares Albin has the absolute worst personality, imagining him as a strict, miserly man who would never be a good match for her. He grimly considers that Albin might even go so far as to have her killed. The man concludes that, in the end, these are still just rumors and they need something decisive. He tells Letitia this is exactly why he needs her help, implying that Morrow should be panicking now. Letitia listens quietly, understanding the gravity of the situation. She apologizes, gripping her dress tightly, and insists she can't help him, refusing to drag the entire Audrin house into her revenge. He calmly tells her this isn't just about revenge, and that he knows the truth behind every bad thing she's done. Addressing her by name, Letitia. He acknowledges that she committed crimes but insists everything she did was for her people. He asks if she regrets knowing the truth, but he smiles and denies that, showing no remorse. He explains that, in fact, Knowing more about her puts his heart at ease. He has already set his heart on her and will cherish her for the rest of his life. He declares she is truly worthy of being his wife and vows never to let her go or betray her. No matter what happens, tears well in her eyes as she softly calls his name, Albin. He declares he cannot forgive Maro and vows to make him pay for the pain he caused her. She wipes a tear, teasing that such words aren't fitting for a great villain. A servant asks if she didn't know, explaining that the greatest villains are those who treasure their families most. The scene shifts to the Audren territory's food storage. She stands alone as footsteps approach, and a man tells her she kept him waiting. The man, with a mocking smile, calls her Letitia and scolds her for forgetting to add the respectful Sama to his name, Maro Bertley. She looks uneasy but listens. Maro holds a letter, surprised she actually sent it. He explains the letter is full of complaints about Baron Audren and is practically a cursed item now. Letitia admits she's had enough and can't continue living as that man's wife. She pleads desperately, insisting he is a far better man than Baron Audren and begging to be freed from the Audren household. The man holding the letter smirks, acknowledging her terrible life there and asking if Baron Audren is truly that awful. He bursts into mocking laughter, shocking her as she calls out his name, Maro. The man confirms the name, Baron Audren, as a tall figure with a sword approaches. Lady Letitia gasps in recognition, startled by the arrival. Maro reveals he has also been in contact with Baron Audren. Surprising her, he explains rumors circulated about their relationship, but the moment she begged him for help, she sealed her own downfall. He laughs cruelly, recalling how the letter confirmed their bad terms. Maro coldly admits he hated her from the start, calling her an uptight woman without charm. Yet, he reminds her that she remains the young lady of the Barrow ducal family, and that canceling their engagement took all his effort. Now, the person she betrayed is his reliable ally as he places a hand on Duke Moro's shoulder, leaving Lady Letitia isolated and stunned. The man with the floral hair accessory asks Maro for his orders. Maro calmly commands to kill Lady Letitia Barrow. His sword drawn and ready, Lady Letitia gasps in shock, frozen by the deadly command. The man with the floral hair accessory declares he has been waiting for that moment, as a powerful force strikes down a man nearby with destructive impact. Maro swiftly moves, his sword slashing through the air with deadly precision, cutting down the threat with fluid, lethal strikes. The tension breaks as Maro and Lady Letitia walk away together, with Maro commenting on the poor quality of the Bertley family's guards. Lady Letitia smiles, praising their successful acting, and Maro compliments her performance. She smiles slyly, expressing how honored she is to receive such praise, her hand elegantly holding a fan. The man beside her breaks into a panicked sweat, his mouth agape in shock and disbelief. A man shouts in shock and anger, accusing Audren of orchestrating everything as a figure lies on the ground. Another man and a woman watch tensely from behind, while the angry man demands if this was all planned. The man with the distinctive ahogue smirks and questions the idea of a plan, accusing the other of having tried to frame a woman first. The accused man gasps in pain, clutching his chest as the smirking man draws his sword with calm precision. The man with the sword declares he will not forgive the other and vows to make him suffer the same despair as Letitia did. The two women nearby exchange nervous glances, while the man with curly hair lets out a sinister laugh. The angry man, now sweating but defiant, accuses the pair of treason for working together. The woman beside him insists that a fallen noblewoman and a mere baron cannot escape punishment. The man with the sword and the woman beside him remain composed. Dismissing the noise, the man's foot stomps heavily as he grins wickedly, plotting his next move. A man with an eye patch calmly suggests they must strengthen Audren Sama's position, causing a younger man to react in shock and stammer, unable to hide his fear. The eye-patched man, revealed as Hux de Crayon, the kingdom's highest honorary knight commander, orders Duke Maro Burley to stand down, warning him not to feign ignorance. The younger man nervously questions why Lord Crayon would be here. Lord Crayon explains he came because his friend Seabass invited him on a trip to Audren territory, but he accidentally overheard a shocking secret. In order to kill the young lady of the Barrow ducal family, the younger man protests, claiming it's a plot by Albin Audren, but Crayon demands a letter addressed to Maro, which he says he stole from Albin. Holding the letter, Lord Crayon states it contains no mention of killing, offering to help if they want to get rid of Letitia. The younger man is stunned, realizing the plan was set far in advance. Meanwhile, Albin Audren smirks, calling himself a bad man for ensuring Lord Crayon only heard the word kill aloud, leaving no written proof of consent, while Lady Letitia silently reflects on the cruel manipulation. An order rings out to take Duke Maro Burley into custody, sparking a shocked cry that a duel will take place. Maro clenches his teeth, struggling to hold back his pain and frustration. Defiantly, Duke Maro Bertley loudly challenges Baron Albin Audren to a duel to restore his honor, his voice filled with fierce determination. Albin Audren smirks, calling the situation a pain but relishing the perfect excuse to fight fairly and beat his opponent. He turns away, leaving the challenge hanging in the air. Hughes de Crayon steps forward, declaring he will serve as witness to the duel. Maro, grinding his teeth in anger and vowing to kill Albin, listens as Albin calmly asks to pose a single question before the fight begins. Albin demands if the man intends to apologize to Letitia, hinting that a sincere apology might lead to a peaceful resolution. The man snarls in disbelief, then lunges violently with a knife, shouting to die and not to be messed with. Albin calmly braces himself, unfazed by the attack. Albin declares he won't hold back and strikes the man fiercely, causing him to cry out in pain. Clutching his nose, Albin taunts him, questioning why he didn't kill him when he had the chance. The man, shocked and desperate, swings wildly but fails to land a hit. He wonders why Albin is so strong despite being lazy. Albin reveals he has been training himself for half a year, effortlessly dodging and countering. Albin confronts the man about Letitia, explaining she has always done her best to prevent ruin while he indulged in pleasures, causing suffering among the people. The man, bloodied and broken, admits it doesn't matter how many commoners die, as their numbers will only grow. He slams his hand down, ordering silence. He coldly declares nobles are mere parasites relying on commoners, who without them would cease to exist. He accuses the man of trampling on Lady Letitia's sacrifices, while she risked everything to save the Bertley lands. The man screams in agony as his hand is impaled by the sword. The attacker collapses, bleeding heavily, as the swordsman condemns him for crushing her feelings. A woman watches in shock, whispering Albin's name. The fallen man cries out in pain, overwhelmed by the harsh truth. The wounded man, desperate, lunges forward, shouting a fierce warning not to be trifled with. The swordsman calmly braces for the attack, gripping his blade tightly. With swift precision, the swordsman cuts off the man's arm, leaving him horrified and disarmed, his severed limb falling to the ground. The man screams in agony, clutching his severed arm, horrified by the loss. He gasps, struggling to comprehend the pain as he asks if the swordsman has tasted it. The swordsman coldly declares that the despair Lady Letitia felt will die here, his intense gaze locking onto the man. Suddenly, a woman embraces the swordsman from behind, her eyes closed as she pleads softly for him not to act rashly. The swordsman, startled, steadies his sword and looks down at her with surprise. The woman firmly tells Albin he has done enough and warns that if he goes any further, even his soul will be stained. Tears stream down the wounded man's face as he pants heavily. Albin hesitates, caught off guard by her words. She gently shakes him, and he tries to speak to her, calling her name. Holding his hands, she thanks Albin, confessing she never expected him to get so angry for her sake. Nearby, two older men watch silently, one with a stern expression and the other with a faint smile, observing the heartfelt moment. The duel concludes with the official declaration of Albin Audren as the victor. A defeated Duke Maro Bertley stands with a woman and guards nearby. While others watch from a distance, Albin questions Letitia if this outcome is truly enough, to which she calmly replies that simply achieving revenge suffices for her. Albin begins to respond, but Letitia interrupts, signaling there is more to say. Letitia compliments Albin, praising his earlier acting as wonderful and suggesting they would make a good couple. Albin agrees with a smile, proposing they become the best couple around. Letitia reflects on their reputations, calling themselves the Villainous Lady and the Great Villain. Dubbing them the Villainous Couple, Albin starts to respond warmly, but she holds a knowing smile. Surrounded by blooming roses, Albin and Letitia sit closely together, their expressions calm and confident. The narration labels them as evil upon evil, the most villainous couple, emphasizing their united front and shared dark resolve. A month after the duel with Maro, Albin struggles with nerves as he prepares for his wedding to Letitia. He covers his mouth in anxiety, confessing his jitters to Seabass. Seabass calmly advises him to act befitting a groom, urging Albin to get a hold of himself. Albin admits he's more nervous than when he fought his first goblin. Sighing over his pounding heart, Letitia explains the reason for the early wedding. Since they are to be husband and wife anyway, why not hold the ceremony now? Seabass praises the wedding as a good thing, setting the stage for a new journey in Albin's life. He reminds Albin that feeling nervous is necessary, or else Letitia will be disappointed. Albin, now determined, declares he wants to see Letitia in a wedding dress. Imagining how cute she'll be, Seabass recalls that Albin's father was also nervous on his wedding day, hitting himself in the face to snap out of it. Albin reflects that his parents died before he was old enough to understand, so he can't imagine that experience. Seabass expresses pride in attending 2 generations of the Audren family weddings, calling it the greatest honor a lord could receive. Albin listens thoughtfully, feeling the weight of the moment as Seabass bows deeply in respect. Albin confesses he thinks of Seabass like a father, causing Seabass to cover his face in tears of happiness. Saying it was worth raising him despite being a troublesome brat, Albin laughs, agreeing but insists they should be going now. Letitia is asked if she feels lonely, but she calmly replies she has calmed down and thanks the maid. She reflects that none of her relatives are attending the wedding, and the Audren barony is full of kind people who are considerate and trying not to leave her alone. She waves gently, feeling she now understands why she wasn't as nervous at the engagement party with Duke Morrow. Letitia stands before a mirror, placing her hands over her chest, realizing the heart-throbbing sensation she feels is because she is marrying someone she truly loves. Though she has vague anxieties about the future and worries about whether they will make a good couple, she acknowledges these thoughts but remains calm. Albin appears beside Letitia, smiling warmly and saying his happiness far outweighs all worries. Letitia admits this isn't like her at all. Seabass announces he is here to lower her veil, and Letitia walks forward, resolved to embrace the moment at least for today. Letitia smiles softly, thinking that things may not be so bad after all. Meanwhile, a young man nervously admits he feels like he's going to puke as he stands alone in a large hall. The young man tries to calm himself by reviewing the ceremony plan. Seabass and Letitia will walk down the aisle first, then he will lift her veil, exchange vows and give her the ring. He panics, realizing he forgot what comes after the veil. He frets over how meticulously planned the wedding is and how nervous and scared he feels as the bride begins her entrance. His eyes widen as he watches Letitia enter the hall, arm in arm with a man in formal attire. She holds a bouquet and wears a radiant wedding dress with a veil, surrounded by floating petals and sparkles. The young man is struck by her beauty, thinking she looks like an angel, even a goddess. Letitia notices his gaze and nervously asks if there is something on her face, unaware of the awe she inspires. The groom, Albin Audren, nervously denies admiring the bride, Letitia Audren, but she accepts it as a compliment with a soft smile. An older man in the audience insists she is the most beautiful girl in the world right now. Letitia, holding her bouquet, tearfully thanks everyone, feeling happy despite her fears. Albin admits he wasn't the only one whose chest felt like it would burst with emotion. The priest solemnly asks if they vow to love each other forever, through sickness and health, richer or poorer, until death parts them. Both Albin and Letitia respond affirmatively, their faces calm and sincere. The priest then invites them to exchange rings, the ceremony continuing with quiet reverence in the grand chapel. As Albin gently places the ring on Letitia's finger, she quietly confesses her fear and doubts about whether a fallen noble like her can truly be happy. The moment feels heavy, as if she's trapped in a cage of her own insecurities. Albin's expression darkens with concern, silently questioning if it's truly all right for her to embrace this happiness. Albin reaches out with determination, promising to make Letitia happy and to show her that she can be the happiest person in the world. His words burst forth with conviction, cutting through her doubts. Letitia looks back at him, tears in her eyes, as she hears his heartfelt vow, the weight of her fears beginning to lift. Albin slips a ring onto Letitia's finger, calling it proof of his promise. Letitia tearfully admits she is truly happy right now, probably the happiest she's ever been. Albin smiles warmly but questions if it's too soon for her to decide this is the best moment. Letitia reacts with surprise, caught off guard by his words. Albin reassures her that there is still more to come, promising to make her the happiest person in the world. He says this moment is only the beginning. Letitia, tears streaming, wonders if they could ever decide on the best moment. Even as grandparents, Albin smiles, noting that a smile really suits her best. Letitia quietly agrees, feeling the joy of their union deepen. Letitia, still teary-eyed, adjusts her wedding veil with determination. She vows to do anything to protect the smile, her expression full of resolve and love. The couple shares a tender kiss on the chapel steps, surrounded by falling flower petals. Observers remark that Albin Audren and Letitia Audren seem like quite the interesting couple, their happiness shining brightly in the grand chapel. Hughes de Crayon declares he has decided to recommend certain individuals, addressing Headmaster Faust and asking for his opinion. The headmaster listens intently. Another figure protests, reminding the headmaster of the horrible rumors surrounding those individuals. Clearly against the recommendation, Hughes de Crayon remains composed, awaiting the headmaster's response. The headmaster strokes his beard thoughtfully and finally responds with a calm, "Well then." The headmaster of the Royal Academy explains that these individuals are a special case and suggests allowing them to take the entrance exam. His eyes narrow with determination as he makes this decision. Servants bid Letitia a heartfelt farewell, urging her to live well in the capital and promising to send vegetables they grew together. Letitia gently asks them not to be so sad and vows to return after 3 years. Tearful maids plead to accompany her, unable to bear the thought of separation, but she smiles with quiet resolve. Letitia firmly instructs her maids that as employees of the Audren family, they must care for the mansion and territory, refusing their pleas to leave. Observing this, Albin admires Letitia's strict kindness, while inwardly questioning his own role as head of the household. Suddenly, an older man calls out to Albin, catching his attention. The older man warns Albin to be cautious at the academy and offers his support if needed. Bowing respectfully, Albin confidently assures him it will be fine, revealing he has been training under this man for 6 months. The scene shifts to a castle exterior as narration explains that now 16 and newlyweds, Albin and Letitia plan to learn the dignity of nobility. The couple prepares to enroll in Magdala Academia Royal Academy. With servants awaiting their arrival, Albin complains about the discomfort of a long carriage ride, while the servants inform them that Letitia's room is ready and Albin's exam awaits. Letitia calls out to Albin, questioning what exam is being referred to. Albin dismisses it, saying Moro's family just wants to toy with him a bit more. He smirks, confident that all he has to do is endure their boring games. At the academy grounds, a stern man mutters that the brat has finally arrived. He notes the substantial money given by the Bertley family and that all that remains is to deal with Albin Audren. Albin is introduced to Professor Bastian, who immediately insults him, promising to fail him so badly he'll be begging on his knees. Albin remains unfazed, his expression unreadable. The professor shouts at Albin for making his examiner wait, calling it absurd and questioning his seriousness about enrolling. Albin greets him politely, but the professor's anger escalates. A narration warns that acting aggressively against such types only makes them cower. Albin casually asks if the carriage was on time, teasing the professor for waiting alone. The professor snaps at him for his insolence, but Albin smiles, unfazed. The professor finally agrees to start the exam, instructing Albin to aim at the target and hit it with magic. The examiner scoffs, declaring there's no way the candidate could succeed. The candidate calmly retorts that magic can't be learned until after enrollment, then conjures a swirling, dark flame with a single hand, naming it Darkness Flame. The examiner stares in shock as the candidate unleashes the spell, which explodes on the target. Bewildered, the examiner questions if this is mixed magic, admitting even he can't use such a technique. The candidate grins confidently, asking if he passed or failed. He explains his half-year training with Seabass, combining swordsmanship and magic. The examiner, sweating nervously, announces the next test. A mock battle where the candidate must land a single hit to pass. The candidate protests the unfairness of having to defeat a professor before enrolling, but the examiner retorts he can fail him immediately. The mock battle begins with the examiner aggressively attacking, but the candidate remains unfazed, wielding his sword with one hand and calmly asking why he's being looked down on. The examiner, frustrated and shouting insults, lunges again as the fight intensifies. The candidate taunts the examiner, calling him the little shit and demanding one hit to pass. The examiner, sweating and shocked, raises his hand in disbelief as the candidate locks his gaze on the target. The examiner's face twists in desperation and pain as the candidate's strike lands. The examiner collapses, dropping his weapon, tears streaming down his face as the candidate mocks him, calling him weak. The candidate's smile grows cruel as he grips the examiner's head, reinforcing his disdain. The candidate continues to berate the examiner, questioning his strength and status as a professor, daring him to fight seriously or use magic. The examiner, weary and beaten, finally commands the candidate to stop. Suddenly, an elderly man with a long braided beard appears, commanding attention. The candidate and examiner both turn toward him. The man is introduced as Faust Melchizedek, headmaster of the Magdala Academia Royal Academy, known as the strongest mage in the Varland Kingdom. The old man addresses Baron Albin Audren, revealing that Hugues de Crayon recommended him. Praising his rare gift, Albin, surprised, asks if the man knows him. A bystander urgently calls out to Headmaster Faust, pleading for immediate punishment because Albin injured a teacher. Faust calmly acknowledges the situation. Faust declares the academy has no place for incompetence and orders Albin to leave immediately. Albin reacts in shock, collapsing to the ground as the young man who confronted him smirks. The smirking youth calls out to Albin, signaling him to rise. He grants Albin enrollment into the Royal Academy, advising him to study hard. Albin thanks him politely. Faust offers advice, warning Albin to avoid bullying teachers more than necessary and to remember he is just a student for now. Faust then begins to walk away. Albin reflects on narrowly escaping harsh punishment, promising to be more careful. Faust informs him that he and one other student have a special building reserved just for them. Albin questions this, confused about the dormitory arrangements, as Faust points him toward their dorms. Standing before a large door, the young man cheerfully wonders who his roommate could be. He enthusiastically declares they should get along. A woman with long hair and a flower in her hair sits calmly, holding a cup of tea. The young man points out that this isn't the women's building, but the woman explains a guide brought her here under the headmaster's instructions. He panics, realizing sharing a room with her could cause problems, imagining the consequences. The woman smiles warmly while the young man decides to ask the headmaster about switching rooms. She agrees but insists on setting up a divider between them in bed. He laments that he thought one bed would suffice. Suddenly, a voice calls out her name. The older man contemplates Albin Audrin's rare gift, acknowledging the decision to place him in the same room as the woman. The young man reflects on Albin's strong, noble, and merciless nature, driven by an evil heart that compels him to trample his enemies. The older man questions if it was the other who said Baron Albin Audrin is the vessel of a tyrant. He counters that Letitia-sama must be the vessel of a wise ruler, a woman who must never disappear from Albin Audrin's side. The man expresses anticipation for what will become of those two. The conversation shifts to new rules for the school year, with one declaring checkmate. A view of the castle accompanies a question about what happened to Bastian, answered with suspicion that he was bribed. A young man runs determinately, cursing that everyone dares to look down on him. A woman reading a book suddenly looks up, resolved to show them all. She vows to disgrace Albin Audrin and the academy, acknowledging she cannot overlook assault. A young man suddenly grabs another by the collar, demanding to know who he is. The captive reacts with shock as the attacker strikes him with a wooden staff, silencing him instantly. A young man lies sprawled on the ground, battered and broken, cursing Baron Albin Audrin for the torment he has endured. Another student rushes over, concerned, and asks if he is all right. The injured boy stammers a weak confirmation. The young man who approached then turns sharply, sensing something, and calls out Albin's name with a mix of surprise and suspicion. Rumors swirl about a student who beat up a teacher before even enrolling. Whispers warn to avoid strange people. As the infamous Baron Albin Audrin lounges arrogantly on a bench, recognized by many. Albin remarks on Letitia's lateness, recalling she said she would pick flowers. Though he feels uneasy, nearby, a group of girls sneer, mocking a fallen noblewoman for having the audacity to enroll here. Albin worries, wondering what to do next. Letitia confronts the girls with a cold smile, insulting their perfume and calling them dogs in human skin. The girls laugh cruelly, but one suddenly lashes out, demanding why they must be looked down on by someone like her. Albin reacts sharply, calling out her name. The confrontation escalates as a young man steps in, shocked by the bullying. He questions how they can call themselves nobles after ganging up on one person. A girl dismissively claims Letitia isn't worth the effort, leaving Albin stunned and speechless. The young man anxiously asks if she is all right, while internally questioning the presence of the pretty boy nearby. She thanks him for his help, and he replies that he couldn't just ignore what happened. His calm demeanor contrasts with the young man's growing frustration. The man with the pretty face, Baron Albin Audrin, thanks the young man for saving his wife but warns him not to come any closer. The woman is surprised to hear his name, and the young man awkwardly apologizes, unaware she was Albin's wife. He admits Albin's exploits are well known even among commoners. The young man introduces himself as Leonil Hylant, asking to be called Leo. Albin and his wife listen quietly, and she softly calls out his name, sensing something. Albin's expression hardens, his eyes narrowing as he processes the introduction, his face shadowed in serious contemplation. The young man wrestles with the thought of how to expel Leonil from the academy, his face shadowed with inner conflict. The woman beside him smiles gently, teasing if he's seriously considering such a thing now. She confidently reminds him she can tell his thoughts because she is his wife, her warmth softening the tension. She reassures him she isn't attracted to Leonil and that he doesn't need to worry about losing her. Her tender words calm him, and he awkwardly responds, agreeing to try getting along with Leonil. They share a quiet moment before the door closes behind them. Suddenly, a cheerful voice calls out, recognizing Baron Albin Audrin and Mrs. Letitia. The young man's eyes widen in surprise at the greeting. The speaker happily recalls that they were once classmates and expresses joy at seeing them again. The woman sternly instructs everyone to remain quiet inside the classroom, restoring order. The scene shifts to a group of students seated inside the classroom, their expressions ranging from curiosity to amusement as they observe the arrival of the couple. The atmosphere is lively yet controlled, with the woman standing prominently at the front, commanding attention and respect from those around her. Paula Velvet bursts into the room energetically, greeting everyone with a bright smile and introducing herself as the new teacher in charge of Class F. She playfully notes the students don't look very energetic, then asks a question, prompting a student to begin recalling her name. A young man with glasses, Ivan Kuhn, questions why someone from a noble Scottish ducal family like himself is placed in the same class as those without proper noble titles or ranks. Another student challenges him, asking if he means they are beneath him, to which Ivan Kuhn confidently replies that he is indeed above them. Ivan Kuhn sits casually on a windowsill, unfazed by the accusations of being a lowborn. Dismissing the concern, the other student sarcastically wonders if the noble from the ducal family skipped the entrance ceremony. Quoting the headmaster's advice to forget titles while at the academy, a small girl nearby reacts nervously to the tension. Paula claps her hands to command attention, smiling warmly as she announces new rules implemented by the academy this year. She urges everyone to participate actively, hinting that she has something important to reveal from among all the students. Paula announces that someone will take control over the class, and that the students must decide on a king. The trio of students reacts with surprise and confusion at the idea of a king. Paula explains that the 9 students who don't become king must swear absolute obedience until graduation. Ivan Kuhn angrily protests, saying he never heard of this before enrolling. Paula brushes it off as new rules, while a relaxed student lounges, asking how they are supposed to decide who the king is. Paula clarifies that the decision is left entirely to the students, who can compete academically, physically, through violence or even money, as long as no one is killed. She warns that if no king is chosen within a month, all will be expelled. She urges everyone to use everything they've learned to knock others down a peg or two. A spirited student named Rowan Steradian calls for duels until only the strongest remains king. Estelle Appleberry teases the savage nature of the idea, while Shanoa Grain nervously pleads for fighting to stop. Matthias Wolff declares that everyone should be under him, claiming that the richest holds all the power, stating these are the rules of the world. Lockie Azalea cheerfully remarks that anyone will do as king. Carla Rexon, masked and composed, remains silent. Ivan Scottish asserts that a king is only a king because of authority, dismissing everyone else as lowborn. Nearby, Albin Audrin, Leonil Hylant, and Letitia Audrin stand together, their seats noted. A woman in a cloak questions the concept of authority, asking if someone holds more power than Ivan. She requests permission from a professor to recommend someone else as king. The professor listens as she prepares to speak. The woman confidently declares her husband, Albin Audrin, as the only suitable king. Faces around react with surprise and confusion, including Ivan, Lockie, Carla, and Leonil. Leonil suggests holding a preliminary contest to decide the strongest first. Albin looks surprised, while the woman insists Albin will not lose no matter how many fights he faces. Ivan reacts with disbelief as the claim settles. The tension breaks as a loud, exaggerated cry of pain erupts from Albin Audrin, who rushes forward dramatically, lamenting how much it hurts. The surrounding figures, Leonil Hylant, Ivan Scottish, and Letitia Audrin, watch him with mixed expressions, caught off guard by his outburst. Ivan Scottish recoils in shock, yelling that it's absurd to claim Baron Audrin, notorious for laziness, is the most fitting to become king. A woman with long hair leans in, challenging Ivan to put it to the test and face Albin. The sound of footsteps echoes as Albin approaches, leaving others stunned. Albin groans in exaggerated pain, clutching his face, while a confident man calls out to him, insisting on a one-on-one fight and warning he won't hold back. Albin grimaces but accepts, acknowledging the pain yet determined. Albin reflects on his wife's expectations, vowing not to betray them. He smirks, declaring that to crush a group of insects, all 3 challengers must attack him at once. Paula Velvet raises her hand enthusiastically, ready to begin. The duel erupts instantly as Albin and Ivan leap forward, weapons drawn. Albin smirks, noting their killing intent is not half bad as the fight begins in earnest. The 3 challengers launch a fierce simultaneous attack on Albin, but he dodges with ease, declaring their efforts insufficient. Ivan watches tensely from the sidelines, sweat dripping as the battle intensifies. The grim reality sinks in as Ivan realizes Rowan Steradian and Matthias Wolff have been defeated, leaving only him standing. Panic flashes across his face as he draws his sword, determined not to be the last one left. Paula Velvet cheerfully explains the dueling arena's magic circle, which nullifies pain and death, allowing them to fight without fatal consequences. Ivan summons a swirling water whip, ready to strike without hesitation. Albin questions Ivan's early use of magic, who proudly asserts his Scottish ducal heritage as justification. The water whip lashes out, but Albin calmly evades, unfazed by the attack. Albin pins Ivan to the ground, declaring Ivan's death a mere illusion. Paula Velvet gleefully announces Ivan Scottishkuin is dead, reveling in the dramatic moment. The duel concludes with Albin Audron's victory. A girl praises Albin, who cheekily demands more compliments. A woman suggests saving the celebration for later and asks if the others will concede or continue fighting, while a shocked Carla Rexon reacts. A girl nervously refuses to fight a monster like Albin, but then bravely volunteers after seeing the battle. Albin watches her with a serious gaze, admitting he has tried to avoid fighting but feels forced by the story's flow. Leonil Hyland is introduced as the fantasy novel's protagonist, standing confidently with his sword while Albin lies defeated, foreshadowing Leonil as the one destined to bring Albin's downfall. A woman commands the two men to prepare themselves. One man, Leo, is told to listen, and he responds with a confident smile, saying he's ready anytime. The other man, the protagonist, silently vows he can't lose this competition. He raises his hand, challenging the protagonist to show his true skill. The duel begins instantly as the two clash swords with a loud impact. Both fighters lock eyes, focused and determined, as they engage in a swift, intense battle. Their blades slash through the air with incredible speed and precision, each attack met with a parry. The two exchange blows evenly, neither gaining the upper hand. After a rapid exchange, the man with dark hair praises his opponent, admitting the fight was impressive. The blonde man responds with equal respect, acknowledging the skill shown. The dark-haired man sighs in frustration at the challenge, recognizing the other's abilities as formidable. A symbolic scale appears between them, perfectly balanced, illustrating their equal strength. He questions if this is the protagonist's corrective power, overwhelmed by the parody. The scene ends with his exclamation that such power is far too great. The dark-haired fighter admits frustration but acknowledges Leo's skill, amazed he can keep up even in a fight to the death. Leo, sweating but honored, returns the respect as their swords clash fiercely. Observers watch intently, one whispering in awe, recognizing the intensity. Leo declares he will take the duel more seriously out of respect for his opponent's skills. With a determined expression, he launches a powerful attack, forcing the dark-haired fighter to react quickly, sweat dripping as he braces himself. The dark-haired fighter counters with a swift, decisive strike, shouting "Game over!" as his blade cuts through the air toward Leo. The tension peaks as Leo's eyes widen in shock, bracing for impact. Suddenly, a new voice calls out, "There you are!" as a figure appears behind the dark-haired fighter. The duel pauses as the newcomer's presence shifts the atmosphere, catching both combatants off guard. The blonde fighter lunges forward with his sword aimed at the dark-haired opponent, who stands ready but calm. The dark-haired fighter's expression shifts into a wide, unsettling grin as he swiftly blocks the attack with his blade, sparks flying from the clash. With fluid motion, the dark-haired fighter spins away, his sword raised high as he prepares a counterattack. The blonde opponent reacts with shock, barely managing to raise his weapon in defense as the dark-haired fighter charges forward with overwhelming speed. The dark-haired fighter lands a decisive strike, forcing the blonde opponent to stagger back. Clutching his side in pain, onlookers, including a woman with long hair and two others seated nearby, watch tensely. The dark-haired fighter, breathing heavily, declares Leonil Hyland dead, while the blonde opponent kneels, defeated and sweating. A woman announces Albin Audron as the winner, her arms raised in triumph. The dark-haired fighter pants, acknowledging the Baron's skill and admitting he had to get serious halfway through. The blonde opponent groans in frustration, questioning how his rival is so strong without training. The dark-haired man admits he always had confidence in his sword skills but now truly understands his abilities. The blonde man acknowledges he still has a long way to go. He reflects on how dangerous Leonil Hyland is and fears his own ruin if Leonil surpasses him as in the novel. The blonde man wonders if he can really let Leonil continue unchecked, then decides firmly. He reaches to unsheath his sword, prompting a surprised look from the dark-haired man. Kneeling respectfully, the blonde man pledges to become the dark-haired man's knight and vows to recommend Baron Albin Audron to become the class king. His eyes widen with determination. The blonde man declares his intention to make Baron Albin Audron the class king. The crowd reacts with surprise and excitement, while the dark-haired man looks on with concern and sweat on his face. He never imagined Leonil, the one destined to bring about his downfall, would be the one to nominate him for king, but none of that matters now. As a reward for the duel, he's on a date with Letitia in the castle town, holding her close while ice cream drips from his hand. Letitia feeds him a bite, and he insists it tastes better because she fed it to him. He asks her to open her mouth for his turn, and she shyly agrees. Nearby, townsfolk whisper about the Royal Academy kids making a scene in broad daylight. The couple strolls excitedly toward a tea shop down an alley, eager to try the delicious tea they've heard about. Letitia points out the tea shop as they approach, but a girl peeks nervously from inside. Watching them, she's Shanoa from their class. The girl quietly wonders why Shanoa is standing outside the tea shop. The scene shifts to the exterior of the tea shop, where the couple stands nearby. Inside, a woman warmly welcomes them, inviting them to sit wherever they like. She recognizes their crest and asks if they are students from the Royal Academy. The girl who is watching from outside calls out that everything is ready. Addressing the woman as mother, the couple exchanges thoughts about Shanoa possibly coming for tea too, hoping she and Letitia might become tea buddies. A girl peeks nervously from behind a curtain, startled to see Baron Audrin and Lady Letitia enter. She cries out in shock, demanding to know what they are doing there. Letitia greets her warmly, calling her Shanoa. The woman who welcomed them asks if they are friends from the academy, while Shanoa trembles, clutching a broom in distress. Tea and scones are brought to the table, and Letitia thanks the girl for waiting. She recognizes the aroma of Rahina tea from the Siren Highlands, impressing Shanoa, who marvels at Letitia's keen sense of smell. Letitia admits she is particular about tea as she savors the cup. Letitia praises the tea's deep aroma and richness without bitterness, noting it pairs perfectly with the scones. Baron Audrin agrees the tea is delicious. Shanoa blushes as Letitia compliments her talent, and the woman who greeted them praises Shanoa's quick learning and many talents beyond cooking. Shanoa's expression turns serious as she recalls her mother's wishes for her to attend the best school and secure a stable job. She calls out to her mother, declaring her determination to inherit the family shop, the precious legacy left by her father. Her mother reminds her of the effort made to get her into the Royal Academy, while Letitia listens quietly from the side. A woman with long hair asks Shanoa if she has any interest in becoming king. Shanoa nervously denies it, insisting she isn't the type to stand above others. The woman responds with a knowing smile, saying, "I see." The woman warmly tells Shanoa that they will be good friends and that she loves the shop, declaring it her regular spot from now on. Shanoa is surprised as the woman hands her something. The woman asks Albin if he's fine with this, and he agrees, praising the exceptional tea. The scene shifts to the shop's exterior as the woman reminds Shanoa to make some treats after school tomorrow. The next day, Albin sits frustrated, holding a sword maintenance cloth, lamenting that he had to stay behind to maintain his sword and couldn't go somewhere. Suddenly, he hears a knock at the door and wonders if it's a visitor. A cheerful girl bursts in, greeting Albin by name and saying she came to play. Albin recognizes her and asks if she is Laki Azalea, surprised by her sudden appearance. Laki Azalea excitedly marvels at the special dorm building, declaring it huge and expressing jealousy. Albin Audrin, holding his sword, asks coldly what she wants. Laki insists she came to play and teases him to be happier that such a cute girl came to his room. Hoping for a warmer welcome, Albin's eyes narrow in suspicion. Albin admits he's unhappy and doesn't know anything about her. Laki eagerly suggests they get to know each other right away, calling him Alcuin. Albin clenches his fist, warning to wait for Letitia's arrival. Laki scoffs, calling their relationship loveless and mocks them as just a married couple in name. Albin's expression darkens as she clings to him. Laki bluntly asks Albin if he's a virgin, claiming she can tell from watching him and Letitia in class. She adds that Letitia seems pretty chaste. Albin reacts with shock and confusion to her boldness. Laki leans closer, teasing Albin that she knows he's just dying to graduate from Letitia. She provocatively declares that she'll be the one to graduate him instead, smiling seductively as Albin's shock deepens. She reveals she knows Letitia is away in the castle town and won't return soon. Leaning close, she promises to do anything he wants while her hand slides provocatively down his side. He grips his sword tightly, warning her to stay away. Her eyes widen, but the shadowed figure threatens to kill him if he doesn't comply. Looming ominously over them, she smirks quietly, unfazed. He questions why she would do such a thing. She gleefully calls him chaste and insists he will become the king of Class F. She challenges the unfairness of Letitia standing by his side so naturally. She admits she lacks power or authority, but wants the position of queen desperately, refusing to obey quietly. She warns him to try his best to avoid being defeated by her. As she leaves, she declares this isn't over. Letitia asks Albin if someone came to his room. Her voice calm but probing. Outside, the castle looms under the wind. Albin, sitting on his bed clutching his sword, admits Laki tried to set a honey trap for him but he resisted and sent her away. Letitia reacts with shock. She presses Albin, accusing him of seeing Laki's naked body and asks if he touched her. Albin admits he saw her but insists it was more like she was the one touching him. Letitia, Surprised, wonders aloud if she really gives off such a virgin vibe. Albin reflects that Lockie saw right through him. Letitia declares now is the time, prompting Albin to ask what she means. She pulls back the curtains and explains this is a grave situation, acknowledging Albin's consideration for her all along. Her tone turns serious as she prepares to act. Letitia approaches Albin in a sheer nightgown, offering her body to him. Albin panics, begging to wait until graduation. Worried about the strain on her body, her eyes soften with a blush, silently affirming her resolve. Letitia leans in close and kisses Albin, whispering that she is the one inviting him. She asks if he wants her, her hands gently holding his face. Under the moonlit sky, Albin confesses he wants her more than anything, marking the night he lost his virginity. Observing from a distance, 3 students notice a change in Albin and Letitia's demeanor, commenting on their newfound confidence and dignity. They wonder what could have happened between the two to cause such a shift. The next morning, Lockie cheerfully greets Albin, teasing him about being frustrated the previous night. Letitia approaches with determination, ready to finalize something with him, her expression serious as she steps forward. Lockie claps her hands gleefully, mocking Albin and Letitia for letting their guard down now that they're a mated pair. She taunts Letitia, calling her a naive kitten who doesn't know how to entice a male, then challenges if she still looks like an innocent little girl to Albin, leaving Letitia shocked and speechless. A woman teasingly remarks that someone has turned the tables on her, calling him not half bad, as she holds a fan close to her face. A young man awkwardly asks what exactly is going on. Clearly confused, another man, seated with 2 women, tells a black-haired man not to ask because it's complicated. The black-haired man responds with a resigned expression as 2 women nearby turn away dismissively. The black-haired man declares himself the other's knight, promising help whenever needed. The blonde man is asked if he ever thinks about becoming king himself, but he admits he lacks what it takes. Instead, he wants to grow stronger and surpass the black-haired man one day. The black-haired man wonders if it's just his imagination as they clasp hands. The black-haired man imagines a shadowy figure threatening him with a sword. Thinking the world is trying to make Leonil defeat him, he asks what's wrong, and the blonde man nervously admits he feels he can't let things stay as they are. He eagerly asks if the black-haired man would spar with him sometimes, promising to become useful. The black-haired man thanks the blonde man, calling him the ideal king, though he decides to keep an eye on him for now. Suddenly, a woman mockingly asks if the blonde man is here to contest the duel. The scene shifts to a formal setting where a man calls for everyone's attention, and the woman continues to taunt the blonde man, Ivan Scottish, asking what's the matter. A man with glasses and a formal uniform stands firmly behind a podium, declaring he has a proposal concerning the selection of the king. His expression shifts to a subtle, confident smile as he prepares to reveal his idea. A man in formal attire explains that the qualities required of a king are military might, intelligence, and bravery. He announces a challenge. Whoever retrieves the potion herb from the depths of the Dawn Dungeon will be recognized as the bravest of victors. The group listens intently as he asks 2 women if they are truly fine with not participating, and one quietly agrees. The scene shifts to a group descending stairs, ready for battle. A woman confidently declares that the first to conquer will be Albin. The battle for the raw Decora's potion herb officially begins as the group charges forward. The group encounters goblins, who snarl menacingly. A man taunts a companion named Lowen not to get overconfident against mere goblins. The woman who spoke earlier closes her eyes with a calm smile, stating that someone is in her way. The woman repeats that Albin will be the first to conquer the herb. The battle for the raw Decora's potion herb begins once more, with the group charging into the fray, weapons drawn and determination set. A massive impact shatters the ground as a powerful strike crashes down, accompanied by a desperate shout to spill everything out. Estelle smirks confidently, praising the move as well played, while 2 onlookers express surprise at her unexpected brute strength. Estelle launches a fierce attack on a snarling beast, swinging with force as 2 companions watch in shock. She taunts the creature, mocking its intelligence, while the beast reels from the blow, stunned and vulnerable. Baron Audrin calmly asserts that if it's only about movement speed, he won't lose, then shifts the conversation, asking if he intends to decline the king's throne. The scene cuts to a figure pondering silently, while a couple seated together discuss how some resent the power the Baron and his wife are poised to seize. The Baron finally appears, addressing the king directly and signaling his arrival. The king thanks his companion for cleaning up, but she calls after him to wait. The Baron approaches swiftly, and the king acknowledges him with respect, preparing for what comes next. They arrive at the innermost depths, where the ground is barren. The main figure wonders aloud if any potion-based herbs grow here, puzzled by the presence of teleportation magic in such a place. The Baron and a small girl exchange surprised looks at the unexpected magic and herb combination. The group prepares to move deeper, with the knight Leonil Highland announcing himself confidently. The girl cheerfully joins in. While the Baron looks on with concern, they decide to advance together, but the main figure hesitates, wondering if the deepest part lies ahead. They dash forward, ready for what awaits. Suddenly, a powerful impact shatters part of the wall, sending debris flying. The group is startled, and the knight urgently asks if everyone is okay. The Baron grimaces, clearly shaken by the sudden attack. The main figure commands everyone to get out of the way, apologizing to Loki as he prepares to confront the threat. A bright magical circle forms on the ground, radiating intense energy. The group scrambles to avoid the blast as the main figure lunges forward, determined to protect his companions. The group is shocked by the sudden appearance of a massive Cyclops monster. The girl and the knight both express disbelief at encountering such a rare creature here. The man with glasses yells that this isn't what they agreed on, his panic rising as he calls out Natsu, while gripping his sword defensively. The Cyclops roars fiercely, stepping forward with immense power. The group stands together, staring up at the towering beast, the man with glasses still trying to process the situation. The Cyclops swings its huge club aggressively toward the group. The man with glasses shouts, "Ivans!" warning his companions. The knight steps forward, eyes sharp and focused, ready to face the threat head-on. The Cyclops mocks him, daring the smaller man to challenge it despite its overwhelming size. The man with glasses braces himself, clenching his fist as the Cyclops charges its attack. He summons his strength and counters with a powerful strike that shatters the ground where the club would have landed, forcing the Cyclops to leap back. The group watches the battle unfold, prepared for the fight ahead. The two knights stand united, swords raised against the monstrous Cyclops as it swings its massive club toward them. One knight, with a confident smile, declares his loyalty, calling the other his king. The Cyclops snarls, but the knights remain undeterred, ready to face the overwhelming threat together. The black-haired knight assigns roles to his companions, telling Riki to take care of Ivan, while he will personally discipline the troublemaker. The blonde knight looks surprised but nods in agreement, while Riki responds with a determined yet anxious, "Yeah." The black-haired knight's sharp gaze signals his resolve to handle the situation decisively. Two girls stand before a large closed door. The younger one nervously asks if the others have found the raw potion herb yet. The older girl replies that with Albin's speed, he should have returned by now. The younger girl admits she's never been in a dungeon before and doesn't really understand the situation. The older girl reassures her that Albin is inside and will be fine. The older girl reveals she's more worried about the monsters Albin might be fighting, causing the younger girl to react in surprise. The older girl encourages her, saying she's sure the younger will meet someone someday, hinting at a future connection. The younger girl looks up with hope and thanks the older girl, Letitia, for having faith in Albin. Suddenly, a shadowy figure raises a large weapon, preparing to strike. The younger girl shouts a warning, but the shadowy figure swings the weapon down fiercely. The scene shifts back to the battle where the Cyclops monster swings its massive club at the knights. One knight dodges nimbly while the other counters, slashing at the monster's leg. The fight intensifies as the knights evade and strike, the Cyclops roaring in fury. The two knights assess their opponent, noting his toughness and the troublesome beams he fires. They realize the monster can't use the beams consecutively, as there's a time lag between shots. Ready for battle, they grip their swords tightly. The Cyclops monster bellows a command to finish the fight in one strike, and the knights respond with determination. The monster's eye narrows as it focuses on its target, preparing for the clash. The dark-haired knight taunts the Cyclops, questioning if it can afford to focus solely on him. The other knight, Leo, charges forward with sword raised, vowing to prevent the monster from doing as it pleases. Leo strikes the Cyclops' eye with precision, causing it to scream in pain. The dark-haired knight praises Leo's skill as the monster reels from the attack, blood splattering from its wound. The dark-haired knight launches a swirling attack, calling out Aerial Blade. As he spins through the air, energy trailing his movements. The Cyclops monster braces itself, gripping its massive sword tightly. The Cyclops slams its sword into the ground with a thunderous impact, sending shockwaves through the arena. The knights exchange confident glances, their bond evident. The smaller knight cheerfully praises the dark-haired one as his knight, while the other protests the title. A group of newcomers rushes in, shocked to find the defeated Cyclops kneeling with its severed eye beside it. They question what happened and if the two knights truly defeated the monster alone. the dark-haired knight and his companions sit, catching their breath amid the rubble. The dark-haired knight points his sword at the seated man named Alcuin, demanding he reveal what he knows. Alcuin remains silent, tension rising as the knight warns that refusal will cost him dearly. Suddenly, a fierce crow screeches loudly, intensifying the standoff. A crow flies overhead, prompting surprise and suspicion about its presence here. The masked woman named Carla Rexon appears, holding the crow on her arm, greeting Darkness Assassin Mara with a calm welcome. The group questions when Carla arrived, as she casually reveals she's been here since they entered the room. One asks if she is a bat, noticing her mysterious arrival. Carla solemnly addresses Alcuin, informing him that Letitia and Shanoa have been kidnapped. The group reacts with shock and concern, one asking if Baron Audrin is involved. Their expressions harden as they process the grim news. Ivan stands alone outside, his face blank and contemplative. He looks down at a small, delicate object in his hand, a flower or emblem. While the sunlight filters down a stairway behind him, the moment is heavy with unspoken thoughts as he quietly reflects. Two women lie injured on the floor behind bars, one groaning in pain. A pale woman with short hair, barely conscious, murmurs that this place is familiar. She recalls being hit from behind. Suddenly, the long-haired woman shouts out the name Shanoa as she rushes toward the other. The long-haired woman comforts the injured one, assuring her it will be okay. She places a hand on her forehead and casts a healing spell. The injured woman, still weak, recognizes her as Letitia-sama but struggles to speak. Footsteps echo nearby, causing tension. A man with round glasses and two burly companions approaches, greeting Letitia Barrow with a mocking smile. Letitia corrects him, insisting he call her by her family name, Audrin. He coldly informs her she will now be their money-making tool. Letitia and the long-haired woman watch as a prisoner is led away. The man laughs, taunting Letitia as a strong-willed woman. The man smirks, warning that threats won't work because they have powerful backers. He reveals their plan to start by taking over a young lady's coffee shop, using her daughter as leverage. The long-haired woman listens intently, shocked, as he boasts that her mother will surrender the land without resistance. A young girl desperately pleads behind bars, begging for anything but the store to be taken. She cries out, but a harsh voice orders her to shut up, striking her down. A woman with long hair watches coldly as two men are told to guard the girl until their business partner arrives. The girl clings to the woman, calling her Letitia-sama and asking what they will do. The woman reassures her with a calm promise to get her out, urging her to stop crying despite the looming danger to both her and her mother. The woman scolds the noisy captives, telling them to force themselves to be quiet. She mocks their value as goods for brothels and points out their helplessness, saying their unfulfilled desires only bring irritation. The men behind bars look frustrated and angry, unable to act. One captive angrily demands the crying stop, but when the woman challenges him, he lunges forward in rage. She calmly intercepts his attack, grabbing his arm firmly as he shouts that he will give her what she wants if she insists on being hit so badly. A woman in a long dress steps forward decisively, her foot landing heavily on the ground. A man nearby stumbles back in surprise, exclaiming question mark, as she reaches out and gently touches his ear. The man's face contorts in pain as he is forcefully struck down. Emitting a harsh cry, a young girl watches in shock, biting her nails anxiously. The man curses and flees down a hallway, desperate to escape. The woman raises her hand, chanting the spell, Wind Impact. A powerful gust slams into the fleeing man, sending him reeling and crying out in agony. She calmly asks if he now understands the consequences. Surrounded by sparkling, crystalline flowers, the woman smiles gracefully and warns that the more beautiful something is, the more it must be protected from harm. The young girl praises her strength, insisting she is more than capable despite comparing herself to another. The woman remains composed, accepting the compliment with quiet dignity. The woman hesitates, softly thanking someone, her expression uncertain. She then instructs Shanoa to gather things to burn, explaining they won't run away immediately since the outside is crawling with lookouts. She plans to draw attention instead, lifting a piece of wood with a confident look. Two figures crouch outside a building, observing quietly. A masked woman with a crow reveals that Letitia-sama and Shanoa are inside. Noting about 100 enemies nearby, the man responds calmly, acknowledging the number. The man smiles darkly, calling the number a nice, even one to end a massacre. The masked woman calls out to him, asking to wait and mentioning one more thing as he steps forward. Suddenly, a fire erupts on the building's roof, startling the observers. They shout to run as flames spread rapidly. The man watches calmly, a faint smile on his face, acknowledging the situation with quiet resolve. Flames roar above as the two women cover their mouths, preparing to escape through a stairway gate. The taller woman urges Shanoa to hurry and leave through the opening, and Shanoa nods, fear and determination in her eyes. Suddenly, a man lunges forward, grabbing Letitia-sama's arm as she cries out in shock. Shanoa pleads for him to release her, tears streaming down her face, insisting they must escape together. The man refuses, determined to hold on to Letitia-sama. The fire spreads rapidly, forcing the women to move despite the choking smoke. Shanoa coughs violently, struggling to breathe, while Letitia-sama urges her to go on without her. Shanoa's resolve breaks as she cries, desperate to stay together. A figure leaps into action, slashing at a fiery, monstrous arm reaching toward them. Shanoa and Letitia-sama watch in horror and shock, tears welling as the danger closes in. Albin embraces Letitia-sama tightly, relief flooding his voice as he tells her how glad he is that she's all right. Tears stream down Letitia-sama's face as she whispers his name, overwhelmed by his presence. Albin gently asks if she was hurt or harmed, but she reassures him she's fine, having managed to return to his side. Their eyes meet with quiet emotion, both calling each other by name. A small girl gasps in surprise at their reunion. Albin strokes Letitia-sama's shoulder, urging to postpone everything else until they get home. Letitia-sama and the girl nod, and the trio begins to move forward together. Stepping through a broken wall, Albin pauses briefly, listening intently to the sounds around them. Albin confronts a crowd, demanding how they could burn everything down and demanding compensation. His voice is fierce and accusatory. He reveals that the person who ordered Letitia-sama's abduction is known, his expression darkening with resolve. Albin's scream pierces the air, filled with rage and anguish. Letitia-sama holds the small girl protectively, warning Albin not to stop her. Albin ignores her plea and charges forward, eyes blazing with fury, as a man stumbles back in shock at the outburst. A woman smiles coldly, telling someone to make their lives a living hell. A sinister grin follows her words. Nearby, a large crow caws nervously as a figure slams a door shut behind them. A battered man pleads weakly for mercy, begging to be spared. The man with dark hair and a feathered cloak coldly wishes for the injured man's face to recover. His expression unreadable, the injured man sweats and trembles, while others stand silently in the background. The woman praises Albin for his efforts with a gentle smile. Albin returns the smile warmly, telling Letitia-sama they should go home together. Darkness Assassin Meru leans against a tree, watching the scene with folded arms. A man in a suit adjusts his hat, commenting on the blunder made by two others. He wonders what report to give to that person, and finds the situation frustrating. He stands alone on a rooftop, surrounded by trees, contemplating the need to make an excuse. A man with glasses nervously explains how he found someone swinging his sword alone in the training ground. A masked figure dramatically declares that Ivan-sama is truly fit to be a ruler, extending his hand with conviction. The masked man suddenly slaps his own face, shards flying, then calmly apologizes, admitting he took pride in his presentation but realizes he has bored his audience. He introduces himself as Skewer, Lord Impaler, promising to continue offering more enjoyment in the future. The scene shifts to a grand castle as he formally names Albin Audrin. A confident woman announces decisively that a certain person will be this class's king. The crowd reacts with surprise, including a dark-haired young man and a blonde woman who both say ? In disbelief. A woman praises Alcuin's true strength and bravery, noting how he didn't falter despite overwhelming odds to save his wife. Another woman agrees, saying such skill is priceless. A playful woman teases that it must be Alcuin, adding she has no complaints, though she hints she might still have a chance in a one-on-one fight. The man asks Alcuin if he has anything to say. Alcuin, with his arm in a sling, solemnly introduces himself as Duke Ivan Scottish. He bows deeply, apologizing to Mr. and Mrs. Audrin. Ivan reflects on his resolve to become the best, admitting he joined forces with the masked man named Skewer, Lord Impaler, to become king. He confesses ignorance about the Cyclops and acknowledges his immaturity as the root of his problems. Ivan vows to atone for his sins against the Audrins and to take revenge on Skewer. Ivan kneels before Albin Audrin, pleading for him to become their king. A woman tells Albin he should accept, reminding him that Ivan is the only one who truly knows Skewer. Ivan nervously clutches his chest, while Albin questions if Ivan thinks he would forgive him so easily. The woman firmly rejects the man's wish to become the king of their class, smiling confidently as she promises to make him the most noble in the entire country. He is struck by how insanely cute even his wife's evil face is. A lively woman announces that from today, everyone must swear absolute fealty to Albin Kuin until death. Much to the crowd's mixed reactions, she reveals the first task for their king: to meet with Headmaster Faust and receive his congratulations. In a grand hall, the headmaster commends the unity of Class F for having no dropouts and presents a certificate to Albin. He assures that the recent kidnapping incident is being investigated seriously. Despite the Academy's culture of competition and rivalry, Albin vows to thoroughly address the issue, threatening to pluck every hair from the old man's beard. The headmaster asks Albin if he believes in fortune-telling. Albin denies it, but the headmaster, an elderly man specializing in astrology, explains that the stars have been revealing strange things about the Academy's future for some time. The old man's eyes widen as he solemnly declares that the fate of the Academy has been greatly distorted. The young man standing below listens intently, absorbing the gravity of the statement. The elder asks if the young man has any idea why the stars have shown him this fate, explaining that the story's flow from the original fantasy novel might not be the true fate. The current situation is veering in a different direction. Though the reason remains unknown, the young man responds that even if he knows, he only has one thing to say. With a determined grin, the young man vows that if anything tries to tear him and Letitia apart, he will crush it completely, regardless of fate. The old man chuckles with genuine interest and suggests he will teach the young man something. He points out that the recent kidnapping of Letitia Audrin likely involves the Valland royal family, implying deeper political intrigue behind the incident. The old man reveals that the kidnapping involves someone within the royal family, specifically the Valland royal family, the highest authority controlling the country. He warns that even powerful ducal households like the Barrows and the Scottish amount to mere regular nobility against their power. He stresses that to protect his wife, the young man must be ready to stand against such a force. The young man clenches his fist, declaring it doesn't matter who the enemy is. His priority is protecting Letitia, even if the country brands him as evil. The old man cautions that such words could be seen as treason, but promises to forget what was just said. The young man accepts this and prepares to leave. As he turns to go, the old man advises that showing such an expression openly would be unwise. The young man smiles with a mix of determination and defiance, while the elder watches him with a knowing look. Elsewhere, two knights spar, with one praising the other as a true knight worthy to stand beside the king. The one wielding a huge axe asks to be spared, acknowledging the impressive feat of swinging such a weapon with ease. One man reflects that what makes another so frightening is how clearly he draws the line he's made, standing in a world beyond his own. He warns that if they can't keep up, they will be abandoned without hesitation. The other quietly repeats the word abandoned, troubled by the thought. A masked woman gestures to a crow flying nearby, while another figure adjusts a fur collar. A group of people approaches from a distance, running toward the scene. A young man with a baton calls out energetically, while another watches silently, his expression unreadable. The focus shifts to a close-up of a leaf and a startled eye, hinting at a sudden realization or shock. The young man grips his baton tightly, asking Baron Audrin what he must do to catch up to him. The Baron stands with his back turned, radiating a determined aura as he contemplates the question. Two nobles smirk and whisper among themselves, amused by the E-class participants. One questions what the E-class guys are laughing at, but another insists they are the ones being mocked. A cheerful woman announces that today the E and F classes will perform a joint magical practice, urging everyone to get along and bring each other down. The group gathers, sparking tension as one man counts 10 people, while a smiling young man encourages everyone to do their best for his sake. A confident noble scoffs at the idea of 0 expulsions, mocking those who think they can stand at the top without weeding out the weak. Another angrily retorts, challenging the notion that the number of expulsions determines strength. A man with glasses suggests the doubter test Baron Audrin's talent in today's magical practice. The young man with a cape flicks his fingers dismissively, calling the other a softy. The main character looks on thoughtfully, while the noble who mocked earlier questions if the glasses are just for show, noting the narrow field of vision. The confident noble declares himself the E-class king, Miclard Cafaro, and challenges the main character to a one-on-one magical battle, pitting king against king. The gathered crowd comments on the recklessness of the challenge. Fearing for Maikuin's safety, the main character, Albin, resigns to getting it over with quickly, while a woman calls his name, signaling the start of the confrontation. The old man warns that protecting one's wife requires an equal level of resolve. The young nobleman with light hair grants the first move in the duel, while a shadowed figure reveals that Mike was an assassin sent by the royal family to target Letitia. The assassin flicks a small flame from his finger, standing confidently amid the ruins. A cheerful woman praises Albin Kuin's performance, announcing that 10 points will be transferred, dropping him from E-class to F-class. Albin questions the meaning of points. The woman explains the new system, class against class battles where points determine standing. She warns that if a class reaches 0 points, the entire class is expelled. The students react with shock and confusion, questioning the criteria for gaining or losing points. The woman elaborates that points are awarded primarily when a class demonstrates strength compared to others during the 5 annual exam wars. The class with the lowest points upon advancing will face compulsory expulsion, leaving the students tense and uneasy. A confident young man proposes a battle against the number 25 class to steal points, explaining that E-class has been at a disadvantage from the start. A spirited fighter eagerly volunteers, but a composed woman insists on handling it herself. The young man approaches 2 figures and asks if he may go. A blond young man named Leonil is recognized with surprise. Another voice accepts his volunteering without objection, calling him a knight, while others express astonishment. The blond man is addressed as Baron Audrin, but someone urgently calls out to him to wait. The blond man pleads to join the rescue of Lady Letitia, expressing his desire to help as a knight. He faces a dark-haired figure and a woman with a crow, insisting on accompanying them. The dark-haired man stands resolute, clutching a cloth in his hand as a massive, ominous claw looms behind him, symbolizing the looming threat and the gravity of the mission ahead. The young man recoils in shock, sweat dripping as he questions the meaning of bloodlust and why it has surfaced now. His wide eyes reveal a dawning realization as a cloaked figure approaches. Lifting a heavy cloak, the young man braces himself, hearing a chilling declaration that from this moment forward, everything changes for him. The cloaked figure stands amidst a sea of fallen bodies, the ground soaked in blood. The young man is told that they are about to drown in this sea of blood. A calm voice admits to testing the young man's resolve, revealing the harsh reality of the battle ahead. Nearby, others watch silently, their expressions unreadable. Memories flash as swords clash, the young man and another fighting side by side. He reflects on how he believed their bond had grown stronger, only to realize it was arrogance. The other was merely humoring his childish game of playing knight, never truly standing by his side. The young man's grip tightens on his sword, the sting of betrayal cutting deep. A sword is suddenly pressed against the young man's throat, his eyes wide with tension. He admits he never had the right to stand beside the other from the start. Before the situation escalates further, a cheerful woman intervenes, declaring that it's enough, breaking the tense moment with a smile that diffuses the danger. A woman reminds Leonil that today is a magical practice day, but he apologizes, seeming distracted. She declares the points officially settled. Dismissing the last attempt, Leonil reflects quietly, recalling that back then, the lady's life was on the line, which justified their actions. He admits to overthinking things now, while a warm memory of camaraderie with the young master surfaces. The scene shifts to a bustling street as Leonil questions the situation aloud. He wonders if their bonding over hot dogs is really that meaningful. His companions tease him about trying junk food for the first time, praising its taste. Leonil grumbles about why he's even hanging out with them, but is told a king should get along with his subjects. They urge him to try the food, saying it's delicious and that they share the same fate now. Despite his protests, they encourage him not to be shy among fellow strong guys. Leonil challenges the idea, asking if he'd be accepted even though he insta-killed someone. The others react with surprise as he playfully suggests that if he became as strong as Leo, maybe he'd be recognized as a strong guy. The mood softens as the memory of that thought brings a gentle smile to his face. A scream pierces the air as someone flees down a cobblestone street, prompting cries to stop him. A bald man with a determined grin dashes forward, while another orders Leo to take one side. Leo nods in understanding and moves swiftly to intercept. The pursuers close in, warning the fleeing man he won't escape. The man turns in shock, demanding to know who they are. But before he can react, Leo swiftly tackles him to the ground. The bald man curses as the target slips away, but Leo and his companion press on. Leo commands to freeze them, questioning how long they plan to keep playing this cat-and-mouse game. A mysterious figure named Esmeralda is invoked as the tension rises. Suddenly, a radiant spirit-like woman materializes, encased in shimmering ice that rises from the ground. Leo stares in awe, recognizing the apparition as a spirit, while the icy magic holds the fleeing man captive. A graceful figure descends amid swirling petals, her presence ethereal. She questions if the young man was chasing the purse snatcher, praising his admirable spirit as a Royal Academy student. The young man, caught off guard, responds with a confused. Another man urgently calls out to Baron Audrin about the purse snatcher. The young man and his companion turn to see Lady Letitia, who calmly acknowledges Baron Audrin's identity, realizing who he truly is. Lady Letitia introduces herself formally as Olivia Barrow, expressing gratitude for taking care of her younger sister. The young men react with shock at the name Barrow, while Olivia's gaze sharpens with quiet intensity. A cheerful girl recalls how even during the joint drill, the two of them were as close as ever. Two women sipping tea exchange remarks. One teasingly calls them the ideal foolish couple, while the other insists it's a compliment, dubbing them the one and only super crazy couple. The group enjoys the aroma of the tea, commenting on how lovely and aromatic it is. One woman wonders what kind of tea Albin Kuin likes, while another advises Shanoa to look it up herself. The masked woman, accompanied by a crow, asks Letitia why she invited them over today, prompting a nervous reaction. Letitia calmly explains that they are no longer enemies and insists she will not allow Albin to be expelled. She acknowledges that everyone likely has their own thoughts on the matter but pleads with them to understand her position. Letitia urgently requests that they entrust their talents to Albin for just 3 years, causing the young girl to react in shock while Letitia stands firm, her expression serious as the others listen intently. Letitia solemnly promises to ensure Albin Kuin will never be treated unfairly, her words heavy with conviction. The young girl and the masked woman with a crow listen intently, caught off guard by the seriousness of the vow. Letitia wipes a tear, overwhelmed by the weight of her promise. Suddenly, a sharp voice cuts through the room, demanding Letitia cease bowing to her vassals, questioning why the king's wife lowers herself. The accusation strikes hard, but Letitia steadies herself and commands the girl to listen carefully. She begins to explain what it truly means to be a queen. Letitia describes a queen as elegant, haughty, and royal, someone who smartly commands the king with just a snap of her fingers. Her posture and expression radiate confidence and authority, painting a vivid image of nobility and power. She urges the girl to pour more power into her nobility, warning that without it, she poses no challenge as a rival. Letitia's intense gaze and outstretched hand emphasize the urgency and seriousness of her demand, challenging the girl to rise to the occasion. The young girl questions when she became a rival, flustered and defensive. Another woman calmly points out they are the ones who accepted Lord Albin as their king. A third girl passionately pledges to repay their debt with their lives if needed, raising her hand eagerly. A confident woman declares she will obey Albin Kuin's orders but warns she hasn't given up on claiming the queen's seat yet, hinting others should watch out. Two women exchange a tense glance, silently acknowledging that submitting to Albin is the same for them. The masked woman reminds them they still owe her, addressing the two directly. The blonde woman responds seriously, offering to do anything Albin and she can do if there's a request. The masked woman reacts with shock, emphasizing the gravity of her demand. The masked woman admits she writes novels as a hobby, causing the group to snicker. She reveals the Alex Letty TL novel has become very popular, spreading through underground channels at the academy, showing a romanticized image of Albin and Letitia. The masked woman admits that whenever she writes her novels, everyone becomes happy. She nervously asks for permission from the official couple to continue writing the popular story. The blonde woman responds hesitantly but agrees, leaving the masked woman relieved. The masked woman excitedly thanks them, scribbling furiously in her idea notebook while chanting praise for the Alex-Letty pairing. 3 curious girls ask what Letty and TL mean, but none of them know the answer. Outside a grand estate, 3 men apologize for being invited to the Barrow ducal house. Inside, Olivia Barrow calmly tells them not to worry, explaining it's proper etiquette to entertain her younger sister's school friends. Olivia then directs a pointed question to Baron Audrin, asking if his wife's family home is truly uncomfortable for him. The Baron nervously denies it, trying to laugh off the implication. He struggles with nerves around her sister despite her reassurance that their father is too busy to visit the estate today. She admits she's heard this topic many times, being 5 years older, and confesses surprise at how much he resembles Letitia. He senses her guarded presence, unsure if it's hostility but certain she's on alert around him. He brings up the summoning magic from earlier, identifying it as a high-ranking G-spirit and asks where she learned it. She replies that such skill is natural since she works at the Ministry of Magic, a research institution for elite mages. He internally wishes to avoid dealing with that, questioning if she's more skilled than him. She politely offers to ask him something as she pours tea. She inquires if Letitia is doing well. Noting they haven't exchanged letters in a while, he confirms she is, and she expresses relief. Then she mentions rumors that he and Letitia are exceptionally close, which surprises him as he wonders if people really talk about them that much. Embarrassed, he asks to use the restroom, prompting her to offer to guide him. A servant nearby jokes that having her guide him, as his sister-in-law, is a bit much, but she tells him not to be shy. 2 men comment on the Barrow family's unexpected power, mentioning Baron Audrin and the Ministry of Magic's elite status. A man wishes their king good luck as the atmosphere grows tense. The protagonist feels overwhelmed and awkward, burdened by being sized up by his wife's sister. His nerves fray under the pressure. He reflects on the Barrow family's grandeur, noting their status as one of the country's leading families and the massive, luxurious estate. He recalls how his wife never complained about their close quarters, appreciating her as the best wife. Suddenly, a woman asks him what his sister means to him. He answers firmly that she is his precious wife and the most precious person in the world. The woman questions if that is true, and he confirms it without hesitation. She muses that such words coming from the absolute worst baron are surprising. He looks taken aback as she approaches. The woman declares she will test him. The protagonist, caught off guard, wonders if he lost consciousness and when it happened. Standing alone in a dark space illuminated beneath him. A figure stands alone in darkness, faint sparks flickering around him. The protagonist senses something burning intensely nearby, his eyes widening as realization dawns. He turns, alert and confused, feeling the heat and presence of an unseen force. His shock deepens as he faces the blazing inferno consuming a grand building. Flames engulf his ancestral home, the fire roaring wildly as he stands frozen, overwhelmed by the destruction of what once was his house. An older man urgently pleads for Alban-sama to wake up, holding up a garment. A young woman nearby looks concerned. Alban-sama complains he can't get up without a good morning kiss from Letitia. The man offers to give him one instead, but Alban-sama begs him not to. The woman teasingly says she can give him one anytime, smiling slyly as the man chuckles softly. Flames engulf a grand building as a young man shouts for Seabass and Letitia. Panic in his voice. He runs through the burning structure, desperate to find them. The fire rages fiercely, smoke billowing into the sky. Inside the building, the young man hears a rattling door and turns sharply. He calls out for Letitia again, alarmed. Nearby, the older man lies face down on the floor, motionless, while the young woman stands silently beside him, holding a knife. The young man's expression shifts to shock and horror. The young man kneels beside the older man, shouting Seabass's name in desperation. The woman stands behind them, her face obscured in shadow, gripping the knife tightly. The older man remains unresponsive, his face pressed to the floor, as the young man struggles to comprehend the grim scene before him. Alban-kun urgently demands to know what happened, blaming Letitia for everything. Tears well in her eye as she bitterly declares that being with him only brings misery. She turns away, explaining that's why. He stammers in shock, questioning if it's really his fault. Without warning, Letitia lunges at him, her words sharp and cold as she commands him to die. She summons a deadly attack, icicle spear. Driving it toward him, Alban-kun cries out in pain, caught off guard by the assault. The spear pierces his back, shattering armor and flesh. As he screams Letitia's name in agony, conflicted and desperate, he wonders if being with her truly made her miserable. Shattered memories flash before him, happy moments with Letitia, now broken like the glass around them. He gazes at her, stunned and heartbroken, whispering her name as the weight of her words sinks in. Amidst the ruins and swirling embers, the two embrace tightly as one confesses a deep, unwavering love. The embrace lingers, their connection unbroken despite the chaos around them. The young man's expression sharpens with realization, while the woman watches quietly. He questions how she uncovered the truth, piecing together that it was all an illusion magic. His confusion turns to understanding as he admits none of it made sense before. The woman's voice grows firm, insisting Letitia would never use misery as a weapon or excuse to hurt others. Clenching her fist, she declares that she will never make Letitia miserable, nor would Letitia ever betray her. The man's eyes widen, shaken by the weight of her words, calling their bond a sacred insult to their marriage. The woman's calm smile returns as she admits defeat, praising him for his insight. She thanks him sincerely and asks why he cast illusion magic on her, leaving the question hanging in the quiet aftermath. Olivia Barrow confronts Alban-kun sharply, questioning if he lacks common sense. She declares that for her beloved sister Letitia, the only reason for her scrutiny is to judge if he is worthy of being her husband. Alban-kun reacts with a confused, hesitant expression. Olivia passionately praises Letitia as smart, brave, dignified, and the most beautiful girl in the country. She insists she wants Letitia by her side for life, emphasizing that no ideal little sister could surpass her. Memories of Letitia's childhood cutely reinforce her point. Alban-kun admits Letitia is the ideal wife to him as well, seeking Olivia's understanding. The two continue, with Olivia calling Letitia ideal, a genius, and an angel. Alban-kun agrees no other angel could surpass her. Suddenly, Letitia appears radiant and angelic, confirming her status as a true archangel, inspiring awe in both. Olivia reveals she could not sleep for a month out of pure hatred after hearing Letitia's engagement was broken off by Duke Morrow. She was sure Letitia was facing all her problems alone. Albancuin urgently insists he understands, but then questions Olivia, asking if she was the one who resolved everything for Letitia. Albancuin recalls receiving a single letter from Letitia after she was reluctantly married off to him, stating she is now living happily. He admits he initially couldn't believe it and thought he had to judge Albansama with his own eyes. Bowing deeply, Albansama apologizes sincerely. Olivia Barrow suggests Albancuin should just go meet Letitia, but he explains he is forbidden by his father from doing so. Despite this, Olivia declares she will eventually seize power over the Barrow family. She addresses Alban Audron directly, hinting at her determination. Olivia extends her hand, promising to stand by Albancuin as long as they remain comrades who wish for Letitia's happiness. She adds she has a favor to ask, leaving Albancuin curious. They clasp hands firmly as Olivia vows to annihilate anyone who tries to harm Letitia, emphasizing her loyalty and resolve. The scene ends with ominous laughter echoing, underscoring the seriousness of their alliance. Albancuin reflects on how Estelle actually called him her rival, a fact he hadn't known but is glad about. He notes that Letitia seemed to have enjoyed today's tea party, sharing a peaceful moment with her as they hold hands. Letitia expresses gratitude, saying it's all thanks to Albancuin that she is blessed with such connections and friends. Albancuin quietly admits he's just thinking about how glad he is that Letitia was able to make friends, prompting her to softly call his name. Albancuin confesses a bittersweet feeling, sensing Letitia is going far away and that he feels left behind. Letitia gently disagrees, reassuring him that she is happy to have made friends, emphasizing that it's a different matter from their relationship. They hold hands tightly, affirming their bond. Letitia tells Albancuin that more than anything, she is happy to be together with him. As they embrace, Albancuin's inner voice reveals a conflicting feeling. When he is with her, he becomes unhappy. Their kiss deepens, and he closes his eyes, acknowledging this complex emotion. Letitia embraces Albancuin tightly, insisting she would never say such a thing. She then gently teases him about coming home late, prompting him to start explaining nervously. Meanwhile, a figure in a grand hallway requests that the secret of their meeting be kept from Letitia. The scene shifts to a nighttime castle exterior, where a voice remarks that Ivan must really love dogs, having bought 100 hot dogs, while another voice insists Letitia is misunderstanding something. A woman with a high ponytail reviews a document, questioning if this is about a joint training camp. An older man responds that Class E is full of energy and welcomes it, while another man confirms the camp will include Class F, Class D, and Frien Sensei's Class E. The mood is lighthearted as some students joke about mixing things up. The woman happily announces the joint camp for 3 classes, predicting it will be lively, and expresses gratitude for the approval from Raymond Sensei and another figure. She explains the camp aims to provide as many learning opportunities as possible, especially for exceptional students, emphasizing the importance of this initiative. A young man questions the idea of a joint training camp, glancing toward a young woman beside him. A confident woman beams, explaining that Raymond Sensei from Class D strongly suggested holding it. Behind her, students energetically train with staffs, preparing for the upcoming event. The young man contemplates the proposal, wondering why the homeroom teacher of Class D would initiate it instead of Class E. The woman smiles warmly nearby. The man addresses someone named Ivan, suggesting they might as well accept the invitation. A woman asks Paula Sensei about the main subject of the training camp, which is confirmed to be practical combat magic. A shadowed figure reveals that Raymond Quadra Sensei, an ex-Ministry of Magic official, likely plans to exploit the talent gap among his students to boost his own points. The young woman listens with concern. The man with glasses enthusiastically declares that this is their chance to score points from 2 whole classes, emphasizing that a class's performance reflects on the teacher's judgment. The woman agrees, and the young man is urged to show Class D what they have. Despite his reluctance to focus on scoring points, his classmates encourage him with spirited support. Mike urges to gladly accept the challenge, his eyes sparkling with determination. A composed man in glasses addresses Lady Letitia, asking for her opinion. She hesitates briefly, then acknowledges the proposal with a quiet agreement. Letitia questions what would happen if they refuse, but the woman with a confident smile warns that refusal would be seen as slacking off, leading to point deductions. Mike and Letitia react with surprise and confusion. The woman cheerfully declares that the difference in motivation is the difference in talent. The group walks through an ornate hallway as Letitia contemplates the situation, murmuring about the former Ministry of Magic. Mike looks puzzled while the man in glasses celebrates Ivan's success nearby. Under a crescent moon, Mike calls out to Paula Sensei, who responds cheerfully. The scene shifts to a grand castle exterior, and then to a quiet room where a man writes a letter, his foot pressing firmly on the floor as he prepares to discuss something important with Letitia. A man leans back, satisfied as he holds a sealed letter, confident this plan will work. A close gaze reveals a woman's intense, determined eyes. In the shadows, she writes by candlelight, while distant screams echo, hinting at chaos outside. Memories flood back. She recalls how her past self was too weak, powerless to act. She anxiously carves a mark into a surface, frustration evident. The man looks up, curious about her sudden focus. Tears stream down her face as she admits she could only wait, hoping for help. A key drops with a soft sound, signaling a turning point. She resolves that mere protection isn't enough anymore. Facing forward, she pleads for guidance from Seabass, expressing a strong desire to grow stronger. Her expression hardens with resolve, the weight of her ambition clear. Preparations conclude as the scene shifts to a cozy cabin exterior. Inside, a group gathers around a table, sharing tea and conversation. One young man carries a large pack, greeted nervously by another. A confident woman adjusts her hair, catching the eye of a nearby man. Two others arrive, one struggling with luggage, the other smiling warmly. The atmosphere is lively yet tinged with anticipation for what lies ahead. Set against the sparkling, sunlit sea, a brutally cutthroat atmosphere marks the official start of the joint training camp. The scene focuses on confident figures arriving, their expressions calm yet determined as the camp begins. Raymond Quadra, Class D's homeroom teacher, announces the start of the fun joint training camp, urging everyone to push each other to their absolute limits. Despite his claim of wanting to help everyone level up their studies and magic, a skeptical student mutters that he's just leeching off others to boost Class D's points. The focus shifts to a woman introducing a special guest instructor for the day. Nearby, a group of students anxiously wonders if the guests are late. Noticing the air shimmering slightly, the guest instructor appears, drawing attention with a poised presence. The students react with surprise and recognition as the guest instructor reveals herself. Two girls note the striking resemblance between the newcomer and another, calling her Wani-sama. The group marvels at the impressive invisibility magic she uses, while others express excitement at seeing a powerhouse from the Ministry of Magic once again. Olivia Barrow introduces herself as a special instructor from the Ministry of Magic, greeting the gathered students warmly and expressing hope for a good time together. The group watches as she leads the way into a building, signaling the start of her involvement. Olivia's excitement bursts forth as she joyfully calls out to Letitia, embracing her with heartfelt affection. Letitia is surprised but touched, while a young man beams, explaining he received a letter inviting him to join as a special instructor. The emotional reunion hints at deep connections between them. Letitia and the young man share a tender moment, acknowledging their happiness and the bond they share. Letitia expresses gratitude for having found such a wonderful husband, while the young man proudly declares his fortune in having her as his wife. Their joy is palpable, though Letitia seems slightly overwhelmed by the affection. As the assembly bell rings, Olivia and Letitia promise to catch up properly later. Olivia playfully asks Raymond not to imitate her, her gaze sharp and commanding, while Raymond stands behind her with a calm smile, signaling his presence and readiness for what comes next. A woman remarks that he hasn't changed at all, noting his sharpness in detecting things beyond just using and teaching magic. She expresses surprise that Class F sent him here, while he calmly states he's just stating facts, dismissing flattery. She counters, saying he's the one surprising her by being a teacher at the Royal Academy despite his record of being kicked out of the Ministry of Magic. He laughs it off, claiming to be a genius wizard with many places where he belongs. She accuses him of not reflecting on his past mistakes. She points out the taboo magic he dabbled in, emphasizing its gravity. He listens silently, her finger pointed at him as she delivers the accusation. He awkwardly admits his behavior was villainous and apologizes, claiming he's reflecting on it. Then, with a manic grin, he praises his own actions as simply magnificent, causing her to twitch in reaction. He acknowledges Baron Audlin's magic power as unquestionable and senses a talent in Lady Letitia comparable to it. He wishes those talented students had been transferred to his class. She sharply objects to his referring to people as it and firmly refuses to entrust her sister to him. He calmly asks her to drop the issue, noting that old speech habits die hard. She remains stern, but he gestures toward the couple, remarking how they practically glow with newlywed bliss. He insists he would never ruin that. Reminding her he is a teacher, with a smile, he suggests they get going as the scene closes on her serious expression.